What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the reveal of number 3 in my power rankings, a deep dive into the New England Patriots. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that I have this team behind the Saints and the Eagles. And everyone's going to freak out in the comments. You know, I don't care. I'm going to say what I believe. I will hesitantly say that I think this team was just a little overrated last year. They walked into a first-round bye with an easy AFC schedule. They got to play the Titans in the second round, who had no business playing at that point in the season. And then you played Blake Bortles and almost lost to him in the AFC Championship game. And then they lost to Nick Foles and the Eagles. Say what you want about them, but you know, I think if New England had a pass rush, they might have been able to get after Nick Foles and maybe not giving up so many points. So it's not that they didn't deserve the success they had. You play who's on your schedule, but you take a holistic approach at this league, and the fact that they are Super Bowl favorites right now, I think if you put New Orleans or Philadelphia in the AFC East and switch their spot with the Patriots, I think they'd be Super Bowl favorites as well, and probably even heavier favorites. But that said, I'm obviously still pretty damn high on this team, ranking them in the top 3. So we're going to get right into it here. I want to get on with these deep dives, get the rest of these done so we can do my full predictions show, flag planting predictions for every team's record, the playoffs, Super Bowl award show, all that stuff. I want to get that done before the season starts on Thursday. I'm so fired up. So let's start with the positional breakdown here. Tom Brady and the quarterback position ranking number 2 in the league. Now, I talked about this in my Packers deep dive, but you will not hear me refer to Tom Brady as the GOAT on this channel. I think a good starting point for being considered the greatest football player ever would be to be the best player at your own position during the time that you played. And forget about Aaron Rodgers, who I don't even think it's close. I think Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback. You ask around the league who's the best quarterback since 2008. I think more often than not, you're going to get Aaron Rodgers. And then there's also a conversation to be had between Tom and Peyton Manning. Now, I'd probably take Tom, but it's certainly not a decisive Tom Brady decision there. So everyone's going to say, TFG, you just hate Tom Brady. You know, you want to be lazy and decide that. Sure, I'm just assessing what I'm looking at. And what I'm looking at is the second best quarterback in the NFL. 41 years old, still doing it, still has an above average arm. He's never had an elite arm, but it's always been a very good arm. Extremely accurate. One of the best football minds to ever do it at that position. And most notably, he is extremely underrated in his ability to extend plays. You know, you don't need Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson type of athleticism to sense pressure, step up in the pocket, buy enough time to open up third and fourth reads. You know, that athleticism helps. It helps you do it more consistently, which is a big reason why I think Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady. But it's not like Tom Brady can't do those things. And it's a big reason why the system quarterback arguments is stupid. You could argue Tom Brady extends plays better than Cam Newton, whose pocket presence is crap and his footwork is terrible. Or Marcus Mariota, who has no idea when he should use his mobility. So the big question is, though, at 41 years old, does Tom regress? I'm not going to bet against him. He's shown us really no reason other than the fact that he is 41 years old, that should happen. It will happen eventually. You know, he can't keep playing forever. Is it this year? Is it 3 years from now? Who am I to decide that? But I will say, and I will stand by this, Robert Kraft made a terrible decision when he decided to overstep his boundaries, go to Bill Belichick, the greatest team-building football head in human history, and say, nope, you're going to keep Tom Brady, you're going to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Because as great as Tom Brady is, and he might give you a slightly higher chance to win the Super Bowl in the next 2 or 3 years, but I do think this team is still Super Bowl favorites with Jimmy Garoppolo. You could argue they even have a higher ceiling with Jimmy Garoppolo because of his mobility. That's a different argument. I think so highly of Jimmy. I think he's an elite quarterback. He's going to finish the year as a top 5 guy. And I think 2 years from now, the Patriots are going to be sitting there like, why the hell did we not do this? You're going to see the Packers with their 30th straight year of high-end quarterback play when they made a tough decision to let Brett Favre go. And you're going to wish that you had done that as Jimmy Garoppolo is competing for Super Bowls in San Francisco. And not to mention, there is no plan right now. Brian Hoyer, newsflash, is not going to be starting for the Patriots in 5 years. So anyway, let's move on, talk about the running back position here. Now, they rank pretty low because on paper, this isn't a group that's going to jump out at you. But what is pretty special here is how this team uses these running backs. You got James White, Rex Burkhead, versatile guys. You know, they can run a little bit, but they're primarily there to catch the ball You got Jeremy Hill, who can run between the tackles. And then the wild card here is Sony Michele. Now, I was not high on Sony Michele coming out of the draft. A 3rd to 4th round grade on him. A lot of that was injury related, and we are seeing that those injuries are staying relevant here. Just didn't make a ton of sense to take a running back who you're concerned about his longevity in the first 2 rounds of a good running back class. Anyway, the Patriots take him in the 1st round. They clearly see a lot of upside here. I think if he can stay healthy, he's got to be the feature guy here. He's the only guy here that can run between the tackles, even though I think doesn't have the best vision in the world. He has the physical ability to run between the tackles. He can catch. He's explosive. A lot of people compare him to Alvin Kamara. I see a lot of Jerick McKinnon in Sony Michele, especially with the injury comparisons there. So he's the wild card here. You know, he has potential to be, I would say, a top 20 running back. I'd be pretty stunned if he just breaks out like Alvin Kamara and finishes as a top 10 running back. I think at best, you know, he stays healthy, has a really solid year, and is looked at as a top 20 or so running back. And then you look at the wide receiving core, if you can even call it a core. It's really just a group of 3 to start the year at least. You got Chris Hogan, Philip Dorsett, and Cordarrelle Patterson. This opening season, the first 3 or 4 games of this year, it's going to be so interesting to see what this team does. I mean, we're going to see so much James White, Rex Burkhead as slot guys. They're asking Cordarrelle Patterson to be their 3rd wide receiver, a guy who can't run routes in a system that is dependent on being in the right place at the right time. So I don't think they're relying on him. I think they see him and Matthew Slater as special teams guys. But of course, you got Rob Gronkowski, and that is why they rank 16th. Because, yeah, he's a tight end, but he is one of the 5 or 6 most dominant receiving threats in the NFL. So it's going to be a lot of Chris Hogan and Rob Gronkowski in the first couple weeks. You know, if you're playing daily fantasy football, just put these 2 guys in your roster. Like, it's going to be ridiculous, the numbers these guys put up, until Julian Edelman comes back and starts to kind of take some of that off. The rest of the tight ends, you got Dwayne Allen, who I don't think is a good receiver at all. Jacob Hollister is interesting. He's a guy liked out of Wyoming. I would not be at all surprised if he kind of has a breakout in the first 4 weeks, because we know this team likes to use a lot of tight ends, and just by default, there is opportunity for him to step up. They also took Ryan Izzo, a low-end, well-rounded tight end in the 7th round. And then you go to the offensive line, and they suffer the pretty tough injury there to the 1st-round pick, Isaiah Wynn. Luckily, though, this team, and I'm not going to say luckily, you know, tactfully, this team went and got Trent Brown for a 3rd-round pick. I thought that was a steal in a world where it's impossible to find starting linemen, especially tackles. You know, if you're like Minnesota, how do you not trade a 3rd-round pick for Trent Brown, who's proved that he can be a reliable starter in the NFL? So he's going to plug in at left tackle here, and the difference from him to Isaiah Wynn, it's pretty minimal. I mean, Wynn's got a higher upside, but Trent Brown has the experience. You got really good interior group here, arguably the best interior in the league. Joe Thuney, David Andrews, Shaq Mason, and then Marcus Cannon at right tackle, who's a very solid right tackle. So they do rank 14th in the NFL on the offensive line. It's definitely a good group. And then as a whole, this is good for the 2nd best offense in the NFL. This thing's just going to be a machine, even though we've got questions about Tom Brady's age and who the receivers are and who's starting at left tackle. You know, things are going to be fine. It's going to be an explosive offense, just like it always is with Tom Brady and this team. So then we flip to the other side of the ball, the defense. Now, they come out ranked 10th. A huge chunk of that is because of the coach and the culture. It does boost the ranking up as far as the calculations go, but it's not just that. You know, there is something to be said about how disciplined this team plays. They play bend, don't break defense. They're not going to dominate you, and this has always been the Bill Belichick style. They don't have a star-studded defense, but everyone has their role within the system, and it all comes together at some point in the season, and it turns into a top 10 defense. Now, the only thing is, you know, Bill Belichick has kind of found a way around having to have that high-end pass rusher. You know, he gets rid of Chandler Jones because he doesn't want to pay him as much as he's going to ask for. You know, he's found a way to work around having that good pass rush, but as we saw against the Eagles and Nick Foles, you know, there's games where you really are going to wish you had that pass rush. You know, it's nice when you're playing the Jets and the Bills and the Dolphins 6 times a year, But when you're going up against legitimate offenses and you're giving elite quarterbacks all day to throw, I don't care how good your coverage is. At some point, the quarterback's going to find the open man and make a play. So while it's a really good defense, there's certain situations where this defense worries me. So let's break it down. On the D-line, really good run defending group. And normally we break this front seven down by run D, pass rush, and linebackers, but the way the Patriots use these guys is a little different. So we'll start talking about the run defense, where you do factor in Adrian Claiborne and Trey Flowers on the edge, who are better run defenders than pass rushers. Now, Trey Flowers is the best pass rusher here. He's a really solid number 2 pass rusher, I would say, but, most teams, he's not a number 1 pass rusher. And then you got a pretty loaded interior defensive line. Malcolm Brown, Danny Shelton, really good duo there. They signed Lawrence Guy from Baltimore. They got Adam Butler there. So for run defense, they come out ranked 10th. Pass rush, they're going to rank tied for 29th. I already kind of hit on why that could be a problem here in certain situations. I do think Derek Rivers is a bit of a wild card here, a really high upside prospect. Pretty sure he was the first pick this team had in 2017. Bill Belichick guy, kind of a freak athlete. Would not be surprised at all if he had kind of a breakout season, and this pass rush did surprise some people with Trey Flowers and Derek Rivers. And then you talk about the linebackers and the coverage ability of these guys. I've got them ranked tied for 9th at linebacker, which is really centered around Donta Hightower, who's one of the best versatile do-it-all linebackers in the league. He's great in run defense. He can even rush the passer. He's good in coverage. Maybe not elite in any regard, but just really solid all around. Really big dude in the middle of the field, and a player that is going to help getting him back. I think this defense is actually going to be better than it was last year, mainly because they get Donta Hightower in there. And then, it's pretty much whatever at the other linebackers. You got Landon Roberts. Was kind of exciting when he first took the field, but we've kind of seen that he's nothing really special. He's maybe a barely replacement level starter. Kyle Van Noy, smart veteran, solid in coverage. And then the guy that a lot of Patriots fans are really intrigued by is Juwan Bentley. The guy's built like a tank, but he actually moves from sideline to sideline pretty well. Seems like a really smart, instinctive between the tackles thumper. I don't think it's going to take too much for him to beat out a Landon Roberts and start to get a lot of playing time and make an impact on this defense. So as a whole, the front seven, it's just kind of solid. No superstars, but everyone's got their role. They're well coached. You got the good scheme. It's all going to be, rinse, repeat with this bend, don't break style defense. We don't need you to dominate. We just can't allow 30-plus points, and Tom Brady should be able to take care of the rest for us. But I do think that lack of pass rush against the elite quarterbacks and the great offensive lines, you might see a lot more break than bend on this defense. But you do have a really good secondary here as well. And the style that they have in the front seven, where they don't rely on a pass rush, would not work without good guys in the secondary. So they got, some solid corners. You got Stephon Gilmore, Eric Rowe, Jason McCourty. They take Duke Dawson in the 2nd round. So really 4 guys that I kind of like, especially Stephon Gilmore. He is a true number 1 corner. We'll see how it all plays out between Rowe, McCourty, and Dawson. And then you just got a good duo at safety as well. Devin McCourty. And his play's dropped off a little bit as he's aged, but still a really good free safety. And then Patrick Chung, really solid box safety, a little underrated in coverage. So as a secondary, his team ranks tied for 7th. Should be a pretty good group. So that's the breakdown of the roster. Not a whole lot of surprises. We're pretty familiar with what this Patriots team is at this point. Coach and culture, not even going to get into it. They're number 1. It's not even close. So let's bring up this laughable schedule. Yet again, the Patriots, just a total cakewalk. I've got them starting 8-0. I think they're going to blow out most of those teams. First 2 games of the year will be interesting. I think Houston's going to be pretty good this year at Jacksonville. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Jacksonville's going to kind of stink this year compared to what everyone thinks, especially. And then you're lucked out getting KC at home. And, bet the over that week. But I don't really see Kansas City stopping Tom Brady enough and Patrick Mahomes coming into New England and outscoring them. But then you got Green Bay, the 9th game of the year. I'm giving that one to Green Bay. And then at Tennessee. So a little bit of a hiccup in the middle of the season. And then it just gets easy again. Jets. Vikings at home. Lucky again. I mean, seriously, your, 4 hardest games outside of your super easy division are all at home? Houston, Kansas City, Green Bay, and Minnesota? Like, that's ridiculous. I mean, throw Pittsburgh in there as well. I suppose you do got to go there. So 4 out of 5 are all at home. Like, what a lucky draw for New England. I did give them a loss to the Jets at the end of the year because the Patriots aren't going to play anyone. They'll be 13-2. They'll have the 1 seed locked up. Jets always play the Patriots seemingly pretty tough anyway. So they do have the highest over-under in the NFL. You look at the schedule, you can see why. So I've got them going 13-3. We'll see in terms of Super Bowl, playoffs, what I'm thinking for this team. After 2 more deep dives, we'll get into that big predictions video. So hit that like button if you enjoyed, guys. Cheers, and we'll see you next time.